the evil trio of teens who tortured and killed an Air Force veteran. Ronald Bell and Crystal Maestas will likely each die behind bars for the unspeakable slaying of an Air Force veteran, Cordell Richards. But the third member of their evil trio is shockingly enjoying a comfortable middle-class life in a Florida suburb.
On February 2, 1999, 31-year-old Cordell Richards was reported missing by his family. During a subsequent search of his Florida apartment, authorities found 17-year-old Ronald Bell, 16-year-old Crystal Maestas, and 15-year-old Renee Links inside. As reported by Guanaby, the teens said they had permission to stay in Richards' home. However, they had not seen the man in several days. The teens said it was not uncommon for Richards to be gone for a while, as he worked a lot of hours. Just over 1 month later, on March 4, 1999, a 12-year-old boy was playing in the woods in Fort Walton, Florida, when he made a macabre discovery, being a badly decomposing body tied to one of the trees. The boy contacted authorities, who rushed to the scene. Find Law reports authorities concluded that the remains, which were secured to the tree with a chain and a rope, were partially skeletonized and had also been burned. An autopsy, which was conducted by Dr. Michael Birkeland, revealed that the male victim suffered blunt force trauma to the head which caused several cranial fractures. Birkeland also noted the victim had injuries to his wrist, arm, ribs, sternum, and shoulder blade. According to Find Law, he also found a deep, chop injury to the left neck. Birkeland concluded the victim's manner of death was homicidal violence, which included blunt force trauma and the neck injury. The pattern of burn marks on the body suggested Richards was set on fire after he was killed. The victim was eventually identified as Cordell Richards via his fingerprints. As reported by Guanaby, Richards lived in Florida his entire life, with the exception of the time he served in the United States Air Force. In the months prior to his murder, Richards placed an ad in a local newspaper seeking a roommate, and 16-year-old Crystal Maestas, who was reportedly kicked out of her home by her parents, answered Richards' ad and subsequently moved into a spare room in his apartment. Within weeks, Maestas began complaining that Richards' unusual behavior was making her uncomfortable. According to Find Law, Richards would frequently enter her bedroom wearing nothing but a pair of bikini underwear. On at least one occasion, Maestas said he propositioned her for sex. When she declined, Richards reportedly pushed her into the wall several times, leaving bruises on her back. On another occasion, Maestas' friend Renee Links, who was 15 years old, spent the night at the apartment, and that evening, Richards reportedly propositioned both of the teens for sex. As both girls were uncomfortable spending the night, they called a friend for a ride. Find Law reports they ultimately spent the night with 17-year-old Ronald Bell, who was Maestra's boyfriend. When Bell took the girls back to Richards' apartment, he gave them a baseball bat in case they felt threatened again. Maestra said when she and Links returned, Richards continued making comments that made them feel uncomfortable. Crystal said she eventually called Ronald Bell, who went to the apartment to confront Cordell Richards. As reported by Find Law, the men initially had a verbal altercation. However, things eventually turned violent and the men began pushing each other until Bell placed Richards in a chokehold. As a result, Richards lost consciousness and fell to the floor before Crystal Maestas then began striking Richards with a baseball bat. At the same time, Bell told Renee Links to get some rope out of his car. The teens wrapped Richards in a blanket and secured it with the rope. They then placed the man in Bell's car and drove him to a remote wooded area. After removing Richards from the car, Maestra said Bell told her and Links to take turns striking the man with the bat. When he did not believe the girls were hitting him hard enough, Bell told them to hit him harder. The teens eventually took Richards to a more remote area in the woods, where they chained him to the tree. Although the autopsy suggested Richards was burned after he was killed, Maestas said he was still alive and groaning when Bell doused him in lighter fluid and set him on fire. When they realized Cordell Richards was still alive, Ronald attempted to break the man's neck. As he was unsuccessful, He drove to a store where he purchased duct tape and a meat cleaver. While Crystal Maestas waited in the car, Renee Lynx and Belle went back to the tree, where Belle proceeded to cut Richard's neck with the cleaver. 1 week later, Belle and Maestas returned to the woods and confirmed Richards was dead. Belle then doused his corpse in gasoline and set him on fire again. Shortly after finding Richard's body, authorities learned that Lynx told her mother she had witnessed a murder. However, upon further questioning, Gwanby reports Lynx and her mother denied having that conversation. Authorities also received tips from several witnesses, who reported seeing 3 teens at the scene of the murder on the day it occurred. During questioning, Belle and Maestas initially denied any involvement. However, Maestas' parents eventually encouraged her to confess. In exchange for testifying against Maestas, Lynx was offered a plea agreement, in which she would plead no contest to false imprisonment and manslaughter. Although she was sentenced to a maximum of 15 years, Lynx was released after serving only 12. Northwest Florida Daily News reports that Ronald Bell was convicted of murder and subsequently sentenced to death. However, his sentence was later reduced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, as it was determined that the judge did not take Bell's age into consideration when imposing the sentence. Crystal Maestas was also convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In April 2019, Daily Mail reports Bell and Maestas both appeared before a judge to appeal their sentences. Although the Supreme Court concluded a life sentence without the possibility of parole is unconstitutional when imposed on minors, the judge that Bell and Maestas appeared before denied their appeals and upheld both of their sentences. In an interview with Daily Mail, Cordell Richards' daughter, Ray, said, "It feels good that justice has been done." However, she said knowing Bell and Maestas will spend the rest of their lives in prison will not bring her father back.